For years, the Doom slumbered, content with allowing lesser franchises to rule in its stead. And rule they did. Growing, changing, and thriving over time, those reigning games and the first-person shooter genre itself eventually forgot about that which begat them all. And then, as if from nowhere, there was once again Doom. With surprisingly intelligent gameplay and an attitude that can best be described as metal personified, Doom had returned to reclaim its throne as Lord of the FPS. Hey everyone, and welcome to an all-new episode of The Completionist, where we don't just beat the games, we complete them. But this week, we're not just completing, we're stomping, bashing, thrashing, ripping and tearing our way through this game because that's the only way that you can play it. This week, the sequel has been dropped for Doom 2016, and we're gonna play it right here on the show, right now. Let's begin.
Here comes a new challenger! Yes!
Yo, fuck this! Doom has never waited for anyone, so neither will this episode. Doom has always done what it wants, how it wants, to whomever it wants, which is exactly how the series got started. It took the primordial ooze of early first-person shooters and turned it into an unassuming piece of software that would go on to take the world by storm, ultimately giving birth to one of the most popular video game genres of all time. FPSs grew and changed and thrived, but Doom remained relatively silent, with just a handful of sequels that didn't stray too far from the original. By the time the franchise attempted to reinvent itself with Doom 3, the world had moved on, largely forgetting where it all began. And so for several years, Doom went silent, slipping back into the void from whence it came. Until Doom was reborn, this time taking full advantage of all of the technological advancements and gameplay nuances that it inspired in its descendants. Doom took all of the modern FPS amenities, threw them into a blender, drank it like a protein shake, and kicked its way right back into the mainstream. And all the while, it managed to remain true to the violence and irreverence that makes Doom what it is. This game marked the moment when Doom reawoke to reclaim its throne. But this is not the first moment that I've tried to get this episode to you guys at home. Oh no, that was about 2.5 years ago. But back then, as I put my time into completing Doom, it slowly became clear just what kind of beast it was. Completing Doom requires gathering tons of collectibles, accomplishing dozens of combat challenges, one gruesomely difficult perma-death playthrough, several insanely high scores, and of course, multiplayer achievements. It just wouldn't be hell without those. And with the timetable I had back then, doing it all just wasn't feasible. And while my timetable is still just as choked, my attitude about completing games has changed. I've changed, because in order to complete Doom, I had to steel myself beyond measure. Which is all too appropriate, considering that Doom is absolutely metal in every single sense of the word. No matter the iteration, this series has always been a safe haven for those who require a little bit of that carnage candy, for those who are comforted by the wanton spilling of digital blood. And this version of Doom takes the violence to a whole new level of fidelity and utter maliciousness, pushing it right into a realm of brutality and bleakness that can only be described as metal. With every imp that you explode and mancubus that you chew through, you can feel the level of detail and attention that was given to creating these combat animations. That meticulousness is epitomized in the glory kills, a new technique that allows you to finish off dazed enemies with extreme prejudice. Depending on where you choose to initiate the glory kill on a demon's body part, you can get several different unique animations. Multiply that by the sheer amount of enemies in the game, and not only do things stay very fresh, it also becomes art. It's self-expression through murder. It's goddamn metal, baby. Not to mention your tools of the trade, which are themselves undeniably metal. And you're reminded of that with every instance of visceral feedback that they provide. From the spray of pink mist and chunky reload foley of the super shotgun to the sexy, sci-fi sights and sounds of the plasma rifle. Every gun feels and sounds unique and powerful. And of course, there's the one gun that simply begs to go unbleeped. The big fucking gun feels almost as good to say as it is to use. There's also the demonic themes, which ignorant parents have been associating with metal for decades. Except this time, for the first time, they're right. Doom ping-pongs players from cold, unfeeling installations on Mars to the infernal, fleshy crags of hell itself. But what's most metal about these settings is witnessing the two slowly become one. How the scientific bases are gradually taken over by invading and corrupting forces like an unholy cancer. Eventually, everything succumbs, merging into a disturbing hybrid. And that's reflected in the enemies as well, from the tainted souls that were once human beings to the things that never were, but are still melded with technology all the same. This merging is never harmonious. It always seems painful and unwanted, and that violent, violating fusion is both figuratively and literally metal. And lastly, it would be downright sinful of me to neglect the man who's most responsible for making Doom worth playing. The man who poured his black heart into Doom's soundtrack, Mick motherfucking Gordon. He is solely responsible for one of the best and most metal soundtracks I have ever heard in a video game, period. Any man that composes a track specifically so that the mark of the beast appears in its waveforms is a man that clearly loves his work and is very good at that work. And that previously mentioned unification of the living and technology is the very thesis behind Doom's music. Take some breakneck, chunky guitar riffs, combine it with a heavy helping of technological sound effects, sprinkle in some demonic sounding choir work, and you've got the perfect metal soundtrack for the motherfucking apocalypse. Doom is an assault on players' senses and sensibilities. It appeals to the instinctual, primordial part of us that craves action. But it doesn't just appeal to the low brain. In fact, Doom's apparent mindlessness is only skin deep. And beneath that skin is one of the smartest designed first-person shooters I've ever encountered! Doom knows exactly what it is. More specifically, Doom knows which of its features to emphasize and which ones to underplay. Might seem like Doom outright ignores subtlety in favor of overstimulation, but it actually uses subtlety in just the right balance, which is pretty damn intelligent. This balance is best understood when you realize just how fast Doom is. The combat is frantic. The Slayer moves like a man on a mission, and you're consistently surrounded. With all that stimuli, any and all critical information that has to be conveyed to the player has to be done so quickly and efficiently. There's something positively Pavlovian about how Doom uses color. From the telltale red hues of a demon spawning, to the neon blues and oranges of your health and ammo pickups, to the brilliant green marking of your intended path. These colors are always clear and reliable, even in the heat of battle. In many other games, such overtness might seem redundant and unwelcome, but in a game that moves as fast as Doom, it's just the right touch of subtlety. The same goes for the exploration, which many might be surprised to hear is even a part of Doom. In between battles, there are several opportunities to find collectible figurines in your image, a bonus weapon, or even throwback chambers that recreate locations from previous Doom titles. But of course, all of this is entirely optional. These collectibles and secrets provide those who desire a change of flavor with some goals, and they also allow those who wish for combat to stay in combat. The options are always there for both, and giving the players the ability to set their own pace is clever as hell. Doom also manages to avoid staleness, a very common pitfall. Look, there's a metric ton of murder that needs doing, and yet it never gets old. And that's thanks to how Doom intelligently gamifies its combat and provides ways to customize the gameplay. Within the first few levels, players gain access to combat medals, which represent kill thresholds that the player must reach before the level is over, rewarding them with upgrade points that they then can use to become more efficient killing machines. And just like that, players are no longer as inclined to ignore enemies and rush to the next objective. And then there are the incentives to mix up how you crush those enemies. Each level's challenges require you to dispatch demons in very specific, skillful ways, or even just reach certain secret areas, further making each mission feel unique. There are also weapon mods that will allow you to switch between 2 modes on most guns, effectively doubling your arsenal. And your gameplay can be further customized with runes, which allow your Slayer to utilize different buffs. With so much variety in combat and so much encouragement to explore that variety, no 2 Slayers will play the same, which further demonstrates the creativity of the people behind Doom. But the game is more than a murder simulator. There is a narrative going on, but the way that Doom utilizes narrative and the stance it takes on the issue of narrative versus gameplay is refreshing. It's not that Doom outright reviles or ignores its narrative. In fact, the story that's present is clear and moves well, but it's clear that gameplay was prioritized and the narrative was crafted to serve it. It's pretty clear from the get-go. When one of the characters is basically explaining the premise of the game to the Slayer then smashes their line of communication. The title card hits, he cocks his weapon and steps out, almost as if to say, all right, there's been more than enough talking here. Let's let the gameplay do the talking from here on out. And this game is much better because of that philosophy. The controller is rarely taken out of the player's hands, but there's still plenty of information about Doom's world that can be gleaned from data log pickups. So if you want more narrative, it's there for you. Once again, Doom shows just how versatile it is, with how it facilitates its specific style of gameplay while also still providing alternatives to those who want them. To put it bluntly, Doom is smart enough to leave room in hell for everyone. Playing through Doom is a power trip. It allows you to become an unstoppable killing machine that only gets deadlier and more specialized over time. At least that's the way it was when I played through the campaign my first time on easy mode. And that was my chance to find every collectible, complete every challenge, and really express myself. But when it comes to completing Doom, there'll eventually be a point where there is no room for self-expression. In fact, in order to complete Doom, players have to turn themselves into monsters. As the difficulty increases, more of your options get taken away. And by the time you get to Nightmare mode, you can't brute force your way through hordes of undead soldiers anymore. They'll melt you into a puddle of meat and regret before you know what hit you. Instead, you have to learn which tools are the best in each situation just to stay alive. And that's especially true with Doom's hardest difficulty setting, Ultra Nightmare mode. The enemies scoff at your attempts to harm them, and they cut through you like tissue paper. All it takes is just a few hits and you are done. And what's worse is that in Ultra Nightmare mode, if you go down, your save file goes down with it. Your Ultra Nightmare save file is wiped from existence, and you have to start all over again from the beginning. And that's exactly what I had to do over and over and over and over and over again. And in case you were wondering, this demoralization wasn't even what stopped me from completing Doom the first time. It is absolutely gut-wrenching to miraculously make it deep into a campaign playthrough only to have a stray fireball end your run and ruin hours of investment. That only happened to me once before I realized that playing through Ultra Nightmare mode by normal means is simply unfeasible. I was forced to utilize other methods. So I went back to plain Nightmare mode and got more gruesomely familiar with every single level one by one. When I'd learn a mission like the back of my hand, I'd carefully tackle it in Ultra Nightmare mode. Then I'd save and quit in between levels, the only time you can do so without losing your save file, and then move on to memorizing the next level. This process took an eternity, but with a clear challenge like perma-death in front of me, there was no way I could turn it down. The sheer amount of time I put into Ultra Nightmare mode changed how I played Doom. It made me into a machine of efficiency and foresight in order to get the job done. And those exact same skills were absolutely necessary for the next challenge. Arcade Mode, a surprisingly different and surprisingly enjoyable addition to the Doom formula. Every single mission is selectable, but now there's a score to worry about, complete with bonus points, extra lives, and multipliers from chaining kills together. Arcade Mode cuts out most of the exploration, secrets, and narrative and boils Doom down to its purest essence. It turns the slaughter of demons into even more of a f***ing game, and it f***ing rules. You're rewarded with medals depending on how many points you rack up, including the coveted Slayer medal. And since you can replay these arcade missions on any difficulty, including Ultra Nightmare, my fate was sealed. So staying alive, let alone getting the Slayer rating, meant using all the skills I'd honed for the Ultra Nightmare playthrough, except now I was on the clock. You have to know where each enemy spawns and when and how best to kill them to even come close to the Slayer rating. And no, this still is not what turned me away from completing Doom the first time. So I incorporated each arcade mission run into the process of internalizing each level for Ultra Nightmare mode. Arcade mode took the efficient and precognitive beast that I was and added an overclocker to it. But even after all my time spent in this mode, getting every Slayer medal, this mode still feels like an incredibly inventive and fresh way to play Doom. And then there's the multiplayer, which is an entirely different f***ing game. While unexpectedly fun to play and well put together, Doom's multiplayer works on a very different set of rules than the single player. It was also surprisingly populated, mostly with veterans who've apparently never left this hellscape since launch. After dedicating myself to becoming a monster in the campaign, I was once again fresh meat, and I got ate up. I was terrible at this mode, and still am in the grand scheme of things. That's not what turned me away from Doom a few years back. Oh no. That would be the multiplayer's progression system. As you play, you naturally fill out these little in-game achievements that keep track of every one of your feats, from the mundane to the extraordinary. Several of them are tied to unlockable cosmetic items, but there are so many graphs and categories to fill out that doing it all and unlocking absolutely everything would take months of dedicated playing for hours and hours a day. It would make playing Doom my only job, and back then, that wasn't worth my time. But guess what? It's still not worth my time. This shit was never meant for completion. There are milestones for people who play this mode over long periods of time, and I can't afford that time, and I'm tired of not featuring games on the show because of this stupid, ridiculous shit like this. So it, I'm gonna complete what I think is the completion criteria. And while there are plenty of people who probably disagree with me, and who probably also think that you have to have a living dex before you've completed a Pokemon game, they're free to have their motherfucking opinion, and guess what? So am I. I wanted to complete Doom for this show, so that's what I did. I did what I had to do. But I did not do it alone. While many of the multiplayer achievements aren't anything to worry about, a couple of them required that I grind my level to the 8th prestige, called Echelons here in Doom, in order to claim a few pieces of gear. This would have taken up way too much time alone, so I called in the help of some coworkers and some truly generous soldiers from the Completionist Patreon Discord. We knocked it all out in just a couple of nights of fun and ritualistic slaughter together. Yes, I sacrificed my friends and fans over and over just for a measly virtual icon that says that I did it all. But that's what you've got to be willing to do in order to complete Doom. You've got to be a monster who knows each stage like the back of their hand and can run those levels with brutal efficiency. You gotta be willing to put in hundreds and hundreds of hours in the multiplayer. Or barring that, be willing to sacrifice your friends to the dark gods. Your call. Just as you claim lots of tiny souls as you play through Doom, you're also rewarded with lots of tiny rewards as you play. You can view all the miniature slayers you find, you can check out enemy models, and you can even replay full versions of the classic Doom levels that you discover in the campaign. But even if you go all the way, filling out every single combat node and upgrading every weapon, there's no 100% bonus here. And unfortunately, there's no reward for completing Ultra Nightmare mode either, which seriously hurts my soul. It would have been really nice to have something to show for completing such a feat. There aren't any rewards in arcade mode either, aside from the Slayer medals you've earned on the leaderboard. But then there's the multiplayer, which is built around the concept of slowly rewarding the player with a constant stream of cosmetic items. Part of me still feels slightly compelled to go back and fill out all those damn combat challenge meters in order to satisfy my dark urges, but I'm wiser than that. The show must go on. But when I found out that you get a Predator suit for use in multiplayer by maxing out your XP to Echelon 11, I had to go for it. I can't resist all of my vices. This is one of the greatest first-person shooters I've ever experienced, and I felt that way even after I'd only scratched the surface of what Doom had to offer. And even after all that time I spent training myself for Ultra Nightmare and arcade mode, and all the helpful Discord folks that I murdered, I was still having the time of my life. You better believe I'm ready for the next one, which is here right now. And with my more flexible view on completion criteria when it comes to Doom, maybe, just maybe, it'll hit the channel sooner rather than later this time. When I completed Doom, there were 159 deaths, almost all of which occurred in Nightmare and arcade mode, while training myself for Ultra Nightmare. And I can't even count how many times I died in multiplayer, but yeah, it's a lot too. 13 Slayer medals earned in arcade mode. The ultimate testimony that you got the ultimate score in the ultimate way to play Doom. 54 achievements unlocked, with only a few headache cases, and most of them acting as a reasonable and enjoyable tour guide through this game. 232 secrets and collectibles uncovered. These kept the gameplay fresh and were all worth going out of your way for. 86 hours of total play time and 666 souls sacrificed during the multiplayer grind. I think I wasn't really counting because counting is for weaklings. Doom 2016 is an incredible video game, and it's not afraid to allow the fact that it is a video game be obvious in the greater service of delivering a thrilling and unforgettable time. Now, the sheer amount of dedication that it requires to complete this game because of the high-level challenges and some of the insane multiplayer experiences keeps me from recommending this game to really any completionist out there. If you're a casual person, you're gonna love this game. The utter joy that comes from just a little bit of everything that Doom has to offer makes it a game that everyone needs to dig into. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of finish it.
Finish it!
That's all time we have for today, guys, so please, as always, let me know what you're thinking about today's episode somewhere on the internet. If you like the show, hit the like button, leave a comment, hit that bell, and make sure your notifications are set to all the time. We do new videos on Wednesdays and Saturdays. If you want to catch me, guys, I'll be at twitch.tv/thecompletionist, completing games for New Game Plus for the foreseeable future. Guys, I've been Gerard. Have a fantastic weekend, and I hate Animal Crossing. Bye-bye.